The FBI knew about the Hunter Biden laptop, and they didn't tell us. They also didn't tell Twitter or Facebook or any of the other big tech companies, even when they asked them point blank. Twitter says, hey, you came and you warned us about this hack and leak operation, that the Russians were going to leak something that was totally not accurate. And then the laptop dropped. Twitter had this very precarious position they were in. They said, do we censor the New York Post and do we nuke all of this free speech that's happening right now? Do we crap on everybody's First Amendment privileges in order to suppress their civil liberties, to engage in the political process? Should we do that? Yes or no? And we'll see what the FBI said about it, as well as what Byron Donalds thinks should have been done. But the report came from the House Judiciary GOP. And in a letter after an interview that they conducted, they tell us, testimony reveals the FBI knew the Hunter Biden laptop was authentic. But when they were asked about it by a social media company about the authenticity, they said no further comment, which to me is a lie by omission. They knew they were persuading these people so that when the story broke, they wouldn't do anything with it. And now Congress has sent them a letter demanding answers from the FBI director, Christopher Wray, about this policy. Here's what Congress said. This one came from Jim Jordan, chairman of the Judiciary Committee, and this got sent over to the Honorable Christopher Wray over at the FBI. He got a letter from Jordan. It says, okay, dear Director Wray, on July 17th, the committee conducted a transcribed interview with an FBI agent. Goes by the name of Laura Demlow. She happens to be the section chief of the FBI Foreign Influence Task Force. And they say that during her transcribed interview, Demlow revealed the same FBI personnel who were warning social media companies about a potential Russian hack and leak operation in the run-up to 2020, the same agents who were doing that preparation, they knew that the laptop belonging to Hunter was not Russian disinformation. The people who were persuading, who were encouraging the big tech companies to dump the story and created this fake narrative that there's going to be a hack of a fake laptop that's a sensitive laptop and it's going to spread all over the internet, but it's not true, it's Russian. They created that story knowing that Hunter Biden's laptop was real. She revealed all of it. Now, after the New York Post story broke a story based on the contents of the laptop about the Biden's influence peddling, the FBI made the institutional decision to refuse to answer direct questions from social media companies about the laptop's authenticity. And this was despite months of constant information sharing up to that time. They're funneling information back and forth. And so put simply, they say, after the FBI conditioned social media companies to believe that the laptop was a product of a hack and dump operation, the Bureau stopped its information sharing and then allowed social media companies to conclude on their own that the New York Post story was Russian disinformation. So we already knew that this was largely an intelligence operation against us. How do we know that? Well, it's because 51 so-called intelligence experts, ex-CIA people, all colluded together with the Biden campaign, literally through Anthony Blinken and ex-CIA people, and that was their addition to the giant scam. But the FBI, in addition to the CIA, was also doing the same thing. They knew this laptop was real. They knew it had probably been, floating out there somewhere, and they started pre-butting the social media companies to dump this story before it even came out. Then when it came out, they allowed them to believe their pre-sold story. Massive intelligence operation, a beginning, a middle, and an end. It's not like a bad thing happened and they only responded to it. They knew it was coming and they set it up. According to the information available to the committee, the FBI confirmed the authenticity of a Hunter laptop November 2019. The election was 1 year later, and they gained possession of the laptop in December 2019. And that's now been confirmed by multiple various sources. In 9 months leading up to 2020, the FBI met over 30 times with social media platforms, all while in possession of the laptop. Prior to the election, FBI Special Agent Elvis Chan, the guy who was fielding delete this, delete that requests from all over the world. On behalf of the FBI, he had at least 5 meetings with Facebook, Google, Microsoft, and Yahoo. He had multiple meetings with Twitter and Reddit. Between May and November of 2020, CISA, the Cyber and Infrastructure Security Agency, they hosted at least 9 industry meetings, including 4 meetings in October 2020 alone. All of them censoring all of us. We're all having conversations about the election coming up and about Trump and about the pandemic and about lots of stuff, about Biden, criminality. They're all working together to censor the misinformation and disinformation covertly. Representatives from the FBI, including Agent Chan, routinely participated in these industry meetings. In one meeting, just 1 week before the New York Post article on Hunter Biden laptop was published, the agenda explicitly listed hack and leak concerns as an item of discussion. Now, this begs the question, how did the intelligence agencies know that it was going to leak? Probably because it was just getting closer to the election, now that I think about it. Did they tap, for example, Rudy Giuliani and the laptop repair store? Were they surreptitiously spying on the Trump campaign to say, oh, they're going to drop this thing next week. We better tell all the social media companies, here's a memo. Send it out to all the social companies and get this on the meeting agenda for the next one. Here's an email. It says, hey, gents, we want to share the draft proposed agenda for our USG industry, our government industry meeting scheduled for 90 minutes on Wednesday, a 90-minute meeting. And additionally, to facilitate the logistics for the call, we have included the dial-in information below. 10 minutes for a dial-in and an opening. So threats, here's a threat update from the FBI, Twitter, and Google. And here's 40 minutes on a deep dive on, guess what? Hack and leak concerns. In October, laptop drops, they go, oh, there it is. That's the Russian misinfo. We've been planning for this all along. Just delete everything. The committee recently conducted a transcribed interview of Laura Demlow. She is the section chief of that organization at the FBI, the Financial Crime Center. She testified that by October 14th, the day that the Post published the story about the contents of Hunter's laptop, the individual then serving as the FBI section chief was named Bradley, as well as other individuals. They knew that the laptop was real. Demlow also testified that the FBI could and did share information with companies about foreign malign influence operations like hack and leak operations, including those conducted by Russian-aligned actors. And so the Post, they published their story early in the morning in October. October 14th, it's October surprise season. The election's right around the corner. That same day, representatives from the FIDF at the FBI, they attended a previously scheduled meeting with Twitter. And a Twitter employee at this meeting asked this organization, FIDF, about the authenticity of the laptop. Yeah, I have a question back here. You know that laptop story that came out? Is that real or not? According to Demlow, the woman who's testifying, an analyst in the FBI's Criminal Investigative Division who is embedded in the group, began to respond that the laptop was real. But an FBI lawyer interrupted him to say, hey, no. We have no further comment on that, about that. No further comment. At a Twitter meeting, Twitter employee, hey, is that laptop real? I'm seeing a lot of tweets about it. Is that real? Yeah, hey, this is James over. I'm from Investigative. Yeah, it is real. That's something we got. Lawyer says, hey, pipe down. The FBI's position on that is we have no further comment. Here is the exchange from the transcribed interview. The question to Laura says, are you familiar with October 2020 New York Post story on Hunter Biden's laptop? She says, yeah, I am. Do you recall whether any of these social media companies you were meeting with, do you recall whether they asked you any questions about it, the laptop? I do. And what is your recollection? Who? Laura says, so I remember having a conversation with or being involved in a conversation with Twitter, and I can't recall if this was repeated to me. I might have been a few minutes late to the meeting, or if I was, I actually overheard it, but it was relayed to me later that somebody from Twitter, I don't recall who, I'm not sure who, somebody from Twitter essentially asked whether the laptop was real. And one of the FBI folks on the call did confirm that yes, it was, before another participant jumped in and said no further comment on that. Do you recall who from the FBI said it was real? Yes, I do. And who was that? It's a non-senior executive service employee. but I'd have to take that back, to get the name. A non-senior executive. Now, following the meeting with Twitter, FBI personnel immediately deliberated internally about what information about the laptop the FBI would reveal to social media companies in the upcoming meetings. According to Demlow, who's on the team, during the internal deliberations, the decision was made that the FIDF, FBI, their official position was the following: no comment going forward. However, on the instruction of FBI lawyers during the transcribed interview, Demlow refused to answer which FBI official made the decision to say no comment going forward, except to say that it was not her decision and it wasn't her final call. So they don't know whose decision that was, but they want to get who at the FBI instructed the no comment thing. They're telling them about everything else. They're saying, oh, that's Russian disinfo, delete that. Like literally, delete these things. The FBI was literally sending emails. Delete this, Elvis Chan, delete that. This is dangerous misinfo. This is pandemic misinfo, blah, blah, blah. But then they're going to suddenly shut their mouths about this one. Oh, we've got no further comment on that. And they just presume, because they've already persuaded and pre-butted the social media companies to lap up this leak and hack thing, and they already want to censor it anyways because they're a bunch of libs who hate Trump, so they just jumped on it. Later in October, FIDF met with Facebook. During the Facebook meeting, Demlow responded to a similar question from Facebook. They said, hey, is this thing real? She says, well, we've got no comment on that one. The FBI made the decision despite being in possession of the laptop and having confirmed its authenticity. Demlow said multiple people at the FBI knew it was real. Of course, we knew it was real. We could corroborate the emails, the texts with the news articles. Tony Bobulinski was out, but everybody covered it up. Question to Laura. Do you know who else at FIDF knew the laptop was real? I don't actually. I would assume yes, I would certainly say that Brad was aware. What about the individuals on the Russia unit? She says, well, I would assume the unit chief was also aware. I'm pretty certain of that. And for the individual, the lawyer says, just to clarify, do you know to a certainty that they were aware? Or are you just making deductions? So the lawyer's like now challenging her. Are you sure? Yeah, I'm pretty certain they were aware. Of course they were. Now, in the hours following the publication of the Post story, Twitter blocked the story from being shared. Facebook de-amplified it and significantly reduced its circulation. And as the federal courts in Miami explained in damning language, the FBI and their actions prevented millions of Americans from having a clear understanding about the issue. The court said, the FBI's failure to alert social media companies that the laptop was real and not mere Russian disinformation is troubling. The FBI had the laptop in their possession, and they had warned social media companies to look out. Hack and dump is coming. Operation coming any minute. Even after Facebook specifically asked whether it was Russian disinfo, Demlow of the FBI refused to comment, resulting in a social media company's suppression of the story. And it's a political suppression. It's a suppression of the press. It's a suppression of First Amendment rights of Americans who just want to talk about it and share it. But it's my private company stuff, right? And they keep saying that as though might makes right and as though they can, that's in alignment with the American values of free speech. As a result, millions of U.S. citizens did not hear the story, which was exactly what they wanted. Mission accomplished. And so they're going to try to do this again. I have no doubt about it. But we're going to be more resilient this election. We've got alternative solutions and different technologies and a much broader, more awakened community now. We are aware and apprised of these activities. But this is Byron Donalds. He's explaining that this is something that they should have investigated a long time ago. Here's the representative.
For our audience here, it costs $5 million to pay one, $5 million to pay another. They hired Hunter Biden to protect us through his dad from all kinds or problems. I think that should read of problems. Zlochevsky replied something to the effect of, don't worry, Hunter will take care of all those issues through his dad. Look, the FBI's got a real problem with this going public. Do you?
No, I don't, because the FBI should have been looking into this long ago. And what we have now seen, if you go through the Durham report, what Mr. Ziegler and Mr. Shapley testified to in the Oversight Committee yesterday and in front of Ways and Means a few weeks ago, the fact that the Oversight Committee investigation into the money flow from China, from Ukraine, from Romania, and there are other countries that are coming forward, our House investigation eerily matches what the IRS International Tax Fraud Department was investigating. And all of this is matching up. And the last thing that is also matching up is that you have political holdovers and political appointees at the Department of Justice who were obstructing justice so that this matter was never brought to the light of day. Last thing, you also have our current Secretary of State who led this letter of 51 people in our intelligence community who said that the Hunter Biden laptop story was Russian disinformation, and we now know that is a lie. So I think that the FBI has nothing to stand on as far as I'm concerned. This form should have been released to the public long ago.
I want to just read the FBI statement so that we have that on record here. They said that we have repeatedly explained to Congress in correspondence and in briefings how critical it is to keep this source information confidential. Today's release of the 1023 at a minimum unnecessarily risks the safety of a confidential source. I wonder if you have any indication of how long this was. Did they think that this could go on? Because the investigation has been going on for so many years. At what point does this confidential source still risk safety?
Well, look, we believe that the confidential human source, who the FBI themselves has said is highly credible, who the FBI themselves has said that they've been using for multiple years, that source might be doing other things, not just with the Bidens. So I'll leave it at that. I think that's why FBI has that view.
Okay, just back in June, about a month and a half ago, roll this. The president was asked about it.
Bribery allegation. Congresswoman Nancy Mace says there's damning evidence in the FBI file that you sold out the country. Do you have a response to the congressional Republicans?
Where's the money? I'm joking.
Mr. President,
good question, brother. We have questions about that.
I know how you feel about that. I've heard you talk about it before. You're pushing for an impeachment of the DOJ. Would that just be a formality, knowing that it would not move anywhere in the Senate?
No, I don't think it's a formality, because what this does is it opens up the actual truth of what's happened in this situation. We know, and I'm going to go back to the Durham report. This is why this was so important from John Durham and his team. We know that there are elements of DOJ that have protected Hunter Biden, Jim Biden, and the president of the United States, Joe Biden. They were protecting him when he left the vice presidency. They were protecting him his last year as vice president. They were protecting Hillary Clinton, by the way, when she was in the middle of her shenanigans. And this is the very essence of a two-tier justice system that we have going on in America right now. And so I will tell you that if House Republicans, with all the evidence and all the facts, don't move on this, what you're essentially saying to these bad actors in our government, and frankly to the American people, that if you're in the right political party and you got the right last name, you can do whatever you want and nobody's going to hold you accountable.
Yeah. Congressman, what does that look like? I think people can remember the impeachment of President Trump that they did in his presidency, but for an impeachment of DOJ officials, what practically does that look like?
Well, the actual practical pathway for DOJ, I'm going to leave that to Chairman Jordan and the Judiciary Committee, because largely it will move through there. But essentially what I'm looking for, and I think we're going to really go to get, is the Deputy Attorney General, Lisa Monaco. What did she know? When did she know it? Was she signaling to people not to move forward with investigations? Who tipped off the Secret Service detail around Hunter Biden when the IRS wanted to question him? That's grounds for another. Did Merrick Garland stop David Weiss from being able to bring charges in the D.C. circuit and in the California circuit with those AUSAs? Because that looks very clear to be what's going on. And if they obstructed justice, if they stopped the investigation or stopped charges coming forward, that's high crimes and misdemeanors. It gets no simpler than that. Now I'm gonna move on to Joe Biden, because that's the one a lot of people are talking about. What did the White House counsel's office know about the treatment of Hunter Biden? When did they know it? And at that point, if the White House counsel knows, you know the president of the United States knows.
Wow. Oh, good question.
All right, so Byron Donalds, man, so he's fired up, and I think that he's right. Obviously, they should have investigated this, and there are benefits to going through the impeachment process. We do get to draw a lot of attention to it, shine a lot of spotlight down upon it, get a lot of eyeballs on it, and hopefully get some truth extracted out of it and force some coverage and force it to be on their record, stick the impeachment on their record. So Byron Donalds, the House Judiciary, going after Christopher Wray, saying it's time for answers about why the FBI covered up the Hunter Biden laptop at the most critical time during the 2020 election. We'll see what the FBI says, what Byron Donalds does in response.